Have you ever felt like the light of the world had been stolen? Not by noise, but by silence. Not by war above the surface, but by something dark dragging everything beautiful into the depths where no one could reach it. There is an ancient story in Indian mythology that begins exactly there. At the bottom of a cosmic ocean, where hope itself seemed buried, a goddess waited in the dark, and the one who came to save her did not arrive as a king, a sage, or a warrior in shining armor. He came as a wild boar. This is the story of Varaha, and how he rescued Goddess Bhudevi from evil at the bottom of the sea. In the beginning, the world was not as stable as we imagine it now. The earth was not merely land, mountain, forest, and river. She was alive. She was sacred. She was Bhudevi, the earth goddess herself, the patient mother who holds every wound, every footprint, every seed, and every prayer. She carried life without complaint. She gave without asking. She endured without applause. And because she was always there, few stopped to wonder what would happen if one day she was gone. But darkness always watches what is gentle. Far from the songs of sages and the order of the heavens, a powerful demon named Hiranyaksha rose with a hunger that could not be satisfied. He was not driven only by strength. He was driven by arrogance. He wanted more than victory. He wanted dominion. He wanted to prove that even the foundations of existence could be torn apart by his will. And so he did something unthinkable. He seized the earth. He dragged Bhudevi away from her rightful place and plunged her into the depths of the cosmic waters, into a realm of pressure, shadow, and suffocating silence. The ocean swelled. The balance of creation trembled. The gods watched in alarm. The sages felt the universe itself go out of rhythm. Because when the earth is displaced, nothing remains where it should be. And maybe that is why this story still feels so painfully human. Because there are seasons in life when we too are dragged under. Not always by monsters with names. Sometimes by grief. Sometimes by shame. Sometimes by exhaustion. Sometimes by the slow, invisible violence of feeling forgotten. Bhudevi, in the darkness below, became more than a goddess in that moment. She became the image of every soul that has ever felt buried beneath what it could not fight. No ski, no dam, no witness, only waiting. And somewhere above those waters the cry for restoration rose. The devas turned to Vishnu, the preserver, the one who enters the world when balance is broken. But what makes this moment so unforgettable is not simply that Vishnu chose to act. It is the form he chose. Not a polished form. Not one that looked elegant. Not one made to impress. From the divine mystery, he emerged as Varaha, the boar, massive, fierce, primordial, a being of earth, instinct, force, and unstoppable presence. And at first glance, it is a strange image. Why a boar? Why would the divine choose a form so raw, so wild, so untamed? But maybe that is the point. Because when something precious has been dragged into the mud, salvation does not always arrive looking delicate. Sometimes grace arrives with tusks. Sometimes love must become ferocious. Sometimes what saves the world is not beauty in the gentle sense, but power willing to descend into chaos and bring life back home. Varaha rose, and the cosmos heard him. His roar was not merely a sound. It was a declaration, a tearing open of despair, a thunderous answer to the darkness below. You will not keep what does not belong to you. He plunged into the cosmic ocean, down through the cold, down through the pressure, down through the ancient silence where stolen things are hidden. And as he descended, this was no simple rescue. This was a journey into the deepest layer of disorder itself. Hiranyaksha was waiting, broad, violent, mocking. He looked at Varaha not with fear, but with contempt. To him, the divine had appeared in an animal form. To him, that was weakness. To him, holiness should have looked more refined, more recognizable, more acceptable. How often do we make the same mistake? How often do we reject the very help we need because it does not arrive in the form we expected? The battle between Varaha and Hiranyaksha was not only a clash of bodies, it was a clash of truths. One truth said power exists to dominate. The other said power exists to protect. One truth dragged the world downward. The other descended only to lift it back up. They fought in the waters like storm against storm. The ocean itself became witness. The darkness shook. Waves of force broke through the lower realms. What Hiranyaksha had believed was secure began to crack under the will of a protector who could not be turned back. And still the story does not rush, because some battles are not won in a moment. Some darkness does not leave after one prayer, one tear, one act of courage. Some rescues take endurance. That is what makes Varaha so powerful in the heart. He does not merely arrive, he persists. So if this story is already stirring something in you, pause for a second and tell me in the comments. Have you ever gone through a season where it felt like your life had been pulled underwater? I would really love to hear your story, because sometimes healing begins the moment we realize we are not the only ones who have known the dark. Then came the turning point. Varaha reached Bhudevi. In many tellings, she is lifted upon his tusks, raised from the abyss with a tenderness that feels almost impossible after such violence. Think about that image for a moment. A form so fierce, carrying something so fragile. That is one of the deepest truths in this story. Real strength is not proven by how much it can destroy. It is revealed by how carefully it can carry what has been wounded. Bhudevi, the earth herself, who had been submerged, silenced, stolen, now rose again. Not by her own force alone. Not by denial of the darkness. Not by pretending the abyss was never real. She rose because she was held. And this is where the myth becomes more than spectacle. It becomes healing. Because many of us were taught that strength means never needing rescue, never breaking, never falling, never being the one who has to be carried. But Bhudevi tells another story. Even the sacred can be overwhelmed. Even the life-giving can be exhausted. Even the one who holds everyone else may one day need to be held. There is no shame in that. There is only truth. As Varaha lifted her upward, the waters no longer looked the same. The place that had seemed endless now had an opening. The darkness that had felt final was suddenly pierced by direction. And behind them, Hiranyaksha still raged. Because evil hates restoration. Pride cannot bear to see what it buried begin to rise. So the final confrontation erupted with full force. Varaha turned from savior to destroyer of the threat. The demon who had dragged the world into chaos met a power greater than his violence. In the end, Hiranyaksha fell, and with his fall, the grip of disorder loosened. Creation breathed again. The earth was restored to her place. The balance of the cosmos returned. But the deepest part of the story is not only that the earth was saved, it is how she was saved. Not from afar, not by command alone, but by a God willing to enter the mud, the deep, the humiliation, the risk. A God willing to descend. And maybe that is why Varaha still matters. Because this is not just a story about the earth goddess long ago. It is about every hidden descent no one sees. It is about the parts of you that were dragged beneath the surface by fear, by betrayal, by failure, by grief, by the weight of surviving too much for too long. It is about the quiet miracle of being found there. Many people love the softer images of the divine. The peaceful smile, the blessing hand, the serene temple light. But Varaha reminds us of another kind of love. Protective love, violent only toward destruction. Unashamed to look wild if wildness is what rescue requires. There are moments in life when tenderness whispers, and there are moments when tenderness roars. This was one of those moments. Bhudevi's rescue is also a symbol we should not miss. She is earth, yes, but she is also the burdened heart. She is the forgotten self. She is the inner ground of life when it has been buried under trauma, chaos, and domination. And Varaha is that divine force that says, you are not lost just because you are submerged. You are not abandoned just because you are unseen. You are not beyond saving just because the darkness is deep. That may be the line someone listening today needs most. Because some people are smiling in public while sinking in private. Some are carrying whole families while silently falling apart. Some are praying but barely. Some are still breathing, but only just. And to all of them, this story says, the descent of darkness is not the end of your story. Help can reach deeper than despair. Grace can enter places shame told you were untouchable. And what is buried can rise. That is the twist hidden inside the myth. The form that looked strange became the form of salvation. The place that looked final became the place of reversal. The one who was dragged down became the one lifted up. And the force that thought it owned the depths discovered that even the abyss has limits when the divine decides to enter it. So what do we learn from Varaha and Bhudevi? We learn that the sacred is worth defending. We learn that rescue is not weakness. We learn that true strength kneels, dives, carries, and fights. We learn that some of the most beautiful acts of love do not look soft at first. They look relentless. And maybe most importantly, we learn this. Just because you are in deep waters does not mean you have disappeared from the eyes of God. There is still a path upward. There is still a hand beneath you. There is still a roar on its way. So the next time life feels unbearably heavy, remember Bhudevi in the dark. Remember Varaha in the waters. Remember that what is buried is not always gone. Sometimes it is only waiting to be lifted. And if this story stayed with you, stay with it for one more breath. Ask yourself, what part of me has been underwater for too long? What have I been trying to carry alone? What if healing begins not with pretending I am fine, but with allowing myself to be found? If this story touched your heart, leave a comment and share what part spoke to you most. And if there is a god, goddess, or mythological figure you want me to tell next, comment their name below. I would love to make the next video for you, because sometimes an ancient myth is not just an old story. Sometimes it is a mirror, sometimes it is medicine, and sometimes, in the voice of a wild boar rising through the cosmic sea, it is the reminder your soul has been waiting to hear. You can still come back.